Okay. So today we are going to discuss about the disk management in Linux. So Linux in disk management works little differently from Windows. So let me show you how it goes for Windows actually. So in Windows it looks like this. Like you have C drive, D drive, and all logical volumes. Okay. And if you go to manage, so this is what. So you have system partition EFI, and then you have the C drive, and then rest all the things are healthy thing. So what the people do is usually you can shrink the volume and then you can create an empty space and then you can create a separate partition. So that's how it is in Windows. So you have C drive, D drive, and all. You don't have any root partition here, but the C drive is your system partition, as in your boot partition is. Okay. So let me go and let's deal with Linux. Okay. In order to move forward, right? So you need to know some basics. That, so if you see this hard disk, right? So you have disk, number of disks, and then you have something called platters. So here you have the hedges and grooves. So the hedge is one and the groove is zero. So the data is stored like that here. So you have the disk head, which will read the data. So let's say if the data is somewhere here, the disk has to spin and then wait for it to read. Whereas SSDs, it works little different. Yeah, SSD is fully electronical, so you'll just actually it everything is a chip. So that is the reason if you want to access any data at particular point, so the data access will be really fast because you don't need to you don't need to wait for the disk to spin. Okay, so you can access the data random data at anywhere, and this is a NAND flash memory. Uh, so nowadays everyone is shifting to SSDs, but it's little costly but reliable. So why we are discussing this is now you have a file 250 MB. Okay. So how do you know the file is here, right, on the disk? So this is logical side, whatever you're seeing on the UI. Okay. This is the hardware side, right? So when you have a file that the file would be on the disk, but you won't know where. So you might have the, let's say the platter ID or the reference ID and all. So this is how it is. The data will be stored here. So you have a pointer which points to the data. Uh, yeah, this is called inode data actually. So it will come under inode. So we'll show what is that. So let's say either your file name can be anything. Okay. So you have your disk like this. Okay. And your file would be here somewhere. Okay. Yeah, your file is here actually. So your file name is this. Let's say you went and renamed the file. Nothing will change here in the hardware side because the file will be there itself. Okay. Let's say you went and deleted the file. Okay. So when you delete the file, what happens is it will remove this pointer. Okay. But the actual hard file, right? The actual data on the disk, it exists there as it is. It will stay for some time. Okay. So how it works is, let's say you are trying to move the data. Okay. Let's say you're trying to move data from slash home to slash temp. Okay. So everything is on the same disk. Okay. But logically you are moving it. Okay. So you are saying the file name should be slash home file list.txt. Okay. Slash home list.txt. Okay. And then you want the file name to change to slash temp, right? So whatever you are seeing logically, if you see here, right? Yeah. See, this is all logical partition. Okay. So let me take this. Okay. Forget it. So this is a logical partitioning. Okay. Where you have the slash and then you have etc boot and all. But your hard disk doesn't know all these things. Okay. What it knows is it just stores the data in 0 and 1s. Okay. So when you are trying to move a file slash list.txt to temp, it just changes the file path. Okay. So far you have file name. Okay. You have file path, right? So what else you have? You have something called owner name, right? Owner. You have LWX permissions, right? Read, write, execute. Okay. So yeah, that's what happens when you are moving a data in some disk from one place to another place. It just changes the pointer. That's why the move will be quick every time. Okay. If you are doing a copy, that means in the hard disk you are making an exact copy of this, so that will take some time in order to create that. Okay, so this is about the basics. And you might have heard about data recovery, right? So what happens is your data is written like this to to the disk. So when you delete the data, okay, and you didn't return any new data, okay, so let's say you are writing some data, okay, so the data will come and sit here, right? So you won't get to know. Your data can come and sit anywhere in your disk. Okay. But if some data comes and sit at exact place, okay. Yeah. If some data comes and sits here exactly, okay. Where in this one, so the data will be overwritten because that data, that particular pointer, the day in the disk, right? It will mark as empty. It can go and overwrite. Okay, if you don't have a pointer. So that is the reason people say if you have a day, if your data got corrupted or if your disk got erased, so you should not write any new data. Okay, and when you are trying to do a data recovery software, so what they'll try to do is they'll try to map this pointers, the data, the disk pointers to the file names. So when you are able to successfully point the file name to the disk, so your data will be accessible. So technically, even you delete a particular file, the data will be there. So that is it in a nutshell. So before moving forward, right? So any questions, guys? Rahul, is it okay, clear man? You have any question? Okay. Raymond says clear so far. So this is how your data handles even in Windows as well. Okay. Even in Windows as well, it works in a similar way. So you have a data pointer in your disk, the hardware, and your logical file name will get pointed to there. So with the link. Okay. So this whole thing is called inode data. Okay. So let's see in Linux how that works. Yeah. So if you see here, right, with the stat file, with the stat command, so we are getting the data. So as I told, the file is just a label. You have size, the device, inode. Inode is the one which will specify that this is my disk pointer. Okay. So this is where my file exists on the disk. So that information stores in the inode. And you have these other details like access details, when it is created, updated, and all. And you have something called this one, the UID and GID. And there is links, so we will discuss about the links later. But this is what the basics are. So going bit further, so we will start with the disk partitioning. So since we have Ubuntu UI, let me show you how it goes. Okay. Yeah. So if you see, right, so when I created, I have 25 GB hard disk. Is it 27? Yeah, 27 GB hard disk. So what I did, I okay, 1 second. So yeah, what I did, so I created into two different partitions. So one is 7.7 GB partition, and another is kitna hai? 13. Yeah, it is 20 GB partition. So we have two partitions here, and if you see, right, it is mounted at the second partition mounted at file system group, and the first partition it's not mounted anywhere technically. So that's what it's saying. So where we can see this data, so if we go to here, ls lsblk. So yeah, this is what it's media is just a what to say, notation. It's not exactly complete, what to say, it's not complete a mount thing. So it's just a notation, and we have the 18 GB, the 20 GB disk file, which is stored at the slash. Okay, so I can do multiple things here, but with some limitations. Okay, so let's say you have the root. Okay, under the root, what do we have? So we have the temp file, that is temp folder. That is one thing. Uh, yeah, you have slash home folder, and you have slash var. So what exactly here is, so here we can keep 20 GB. Okay. Whereas if we want, we can assign this one as a separate space. Okay. Even though it's a subfolder, so we can do a mount here. So the mount goes like, so let marks this one since it is a mount. So this is a mount. So this one also we can do a mount. Okay. So how we have to do that? Let me show you that. So what we can do, since our partition is divided into two blocks, right? So our partition is divided into two blocks. So one is he, I think, right? This is 20 GB and this is 7 GB. Yeah, this part is 7 GB. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, whatever my 7 GB is there, I'm gonna assign to slash temp or a slash where also I can do. So that all the temp data will be handled in a separate partition. Okay. So you have the hierarchy. So what to call? The hierarchy goes like this. So you have a disk and then you have a partition. The partitions are logical partitions. So, and here, right? So you need to note few things. So you have one partition, P1 of 20 GB. You have P2 of 7 GB. And the rest of the system partition. So in a box, how will we know? Okay, where from where to where it's starting. So you have the starting point. So starting endpoint would be somewhere 2048 or 4026 byte. So where exactly which byte it is starting on the disk, right? You see in the disk. So from where it is starting. Okay, from here to here, we are saying partition one. From here to here, we are saying partition two. So all that thing, so we're gonna specify here. By default, it will get specified. Let's say we just need to make a note of that. Okay, let's say if it is coming up to 10,050. Okay, so the next one will start around 10,000. Okay, so finally you have 20,000. So the partitions goes like this. So let me show you how it goes here. So if you see f disk hyphen l, sudo f disk hyphen. Yeah, you see the starting bit starts from 4096, and the second one starts from 1336725. So this is how it's been. So I'll mark it a bit here. So I think okay. So what we'll do is, so we will assign this one to a temp partition. Okay, the first one, and the rest one, the second one, we'll leave it as it is. So slash dev sda1. So what we'll do, f disk slash dev sda. So we'll do print. So print will show these are the things. Okay. Um, in order to create a partition, right? Okay. So I'll see if temp has any data. So temp has some dummy data. So what I'll do, I will mount it to temp demo. Okay. So that would be like this, temp backup. So mount slash dev SDA. Our disk would be SDA1. So SDA1 to temp backup. mkdir hyphen p temp backup. Okay, so now if I see df-h or lsblk, so my SDA1 has been mounted to this one, temp backup. So I'm not sure why it's still showing up. That's okay. So what we'll do is we will copy all the data, the temp data. So before taking care of it. So cd slash temp, move, let's say cp to backup. Yeah, so all the data has been moved to backup. So now what we'll do, we will make the temp. Okay. So that would go like this. Partition. So once this entry is done, so we will edit etc fs tab. So slash dev sda1. So slash temp ext4 defaults 0 2. So this is a standard template you will get. You have multiple options here. Do you want to read only data or however you want? So I'm following the defaults. Yeah. You mount lsblk. So you mount slash sda1. Okay. So let me mount it again. Okay. So what it's saying is do a system daemon reload. So let me do that. So I'm doing mount -a. So what will I do is I'll do a restart, system restart, so that the mount will start. Okay. Yeah. Any questions here, guys? Like since the system is rebooting, so any questions here?
No, Cecil.
So mounting means like attaching a partition to some directory.
Yeah, it's something like that. So we are mentioning to the system that so this particular logical directory. So for now, it will belong to this partition. So yeah, it's a kind of attachment. So all the mounting, if you do just a mount, so the mount will get deleted after the reboot. So what you're supposed to do is you need to maintain the records in the etcfs tab. So I think in Linux only this mount option comes up. So wherever you, let's say you want to /var, okay, usually in production you will get all the logs and all. So you might want to, let's say, maintain it separately. So in that case, you can take a partition and you can do a mount. So that option comes up there.
Okay. So here you have used so many commands, right? Like, I mean, I am confused at least. I think LSBLK. So what is the purpose of each of
Okay, sorry.
new mount?
Uh, so LHBLK, it just list out the block of the devices. Okay. So that will show like this. So if you see LSBLK, right? So whatever you have, the disk partitions or everything. So wherever it's mount, it will show you the data. Okay, including the mount points. So whereas the DF-H, so it will show you the disk file system. What are all the file system your disk contains of? Okay. You have DU, we'll discuss it later. But yeah, these two commands I'm using regularly so that I'll get to know, okay, where my file system is mounted and all. So looks like my system is restarted. So let me do a, and in order to move forward, I'm using a command fdisk. Okay, fdisk. Fdisk-l will give you list. Okay, so what I'm using fdisk/dev/sda. So how does it know is, so you have this is the device name, your disk name. Okay, the first disk. Let me show you. And you are maintaining it to 3 partitions. Okay, dev sda1. Okay, dev sda2, and you have dev sda3. Yeah, and this is called disk, and this is the partition. Yeah. So what you are doing is mount this. So you are attaching a physical partition to your let's say logical file system. So this SDA3 is belongs to temp drive and all. So you are specifying in the mount. Okay. So let me do LSBLK. I think for some reason mount didn't work. So cat etc. Okay. So what happened is FS is the wrong file system temp. So I'm not able to do it. Okay. Let me do it again. I want to see the file system of it. Which file system it is? Fdisk hyphen L. Let me go into sudo directly. Okay. It is saying Linux file system, but I don't know what is the type. Okay. So let me do it. Okay. I too don't know this command. I'm trying it for the first time. Okay. Sudo id dev hda1. Yeah, my bad. So what happened is, so you don't need to worry about these commands. Like you can Google out and get to know. So that is okay. So if you understand the concept well, that is enough. So what happened is this file system is in the vfat. Okay. And the if you go to Windows, right? So Windows usually go for FAT32 and NTFS. So whereas Linux will be mostly ext4. So you have XFX, but mostly we'll go for ext4. So what I need to do, this particular one, before mounting out, right? So I need to, yeah. So I need to format the file system to ext4, okay? Or I need to specify the file system here. So in the temp, what I did, I specified as ext4. So I can change the file system here, or I can format the disk. So I'll go ahead and format it. mkfs.ext4. So I'm being very careful here. So this SDA1 is temp file system. So MKFS ext4. So it's going to format the data. That means it's going to clean up it. So it's going to delete everything, set up a new file system. So yeah, vfat, proceed anyway. So this is done. So I'll try blkid. So now it is in the ext4 format. Okay. So let me make a note of this command as well. Mount. Okay, this time it worked. So I'll do the same command lsblk. So if you see the SDA1 is mounted in temp, and what do you want to do? You want to add one more one, right? Like df-h. Yeah, if you can see the SDA1 is mounted as /temp. So this is how basically the file system, the mounts and all works, the partitions. So I'm gonna go into expanding the disk size, okay, or extending the disk size here, or adding a new disk and all. So any questions, guys, before coming up? So let me shut down the VM. I need to add the disk. So I'll shut down the VM. Yeah. Any questions here before moving ahead?
In what scenarios do we use this kind of thing?
Okay.
Production level.
So production level, right? Okay. For that one, I opened in AWS. Okay, so for production level, you need to know this. So whether you are in a cloud one or you're in using a on-prem or non-cloud. Okay, so on-prem or something like VMware. So if it is VMware or on-prem, infra team handles it. Okay, if it is cloud, the cloud team handles it. So earlier we used to be Linux admins. We used to do this task. There are some companies where there is no infra team. The DevOps team is doing the things. When the place I worked, the infra team is working, but they asked me as like the help out the things like the Linux things and all. So it's like a partnership basis. So it's not mandatory that you need to know everything, but it's good to go with this because let's say if you are working in on-prem and this procedure they are doing, so you should be aware like, okay, this is what it is, the disk and partition, they're trying to expand the disk space. So there is a common scenario question like, how do you extend the disk space in AWS? So what happens is, let's say when I spin up a cloud VM, so if you see my default one is 20 GB, okay, and yeah, you see the name SDA1, and let's say you want to increase it, okay, let's say if it is mounted as slash, you want to increase the disk size tomorrow. So how do you do it? So that's a scenario question. We will like we will get detailed about this one as well. So even though few people might not be familiar with AWS, but let's just go over it later. So coming back, that does it answer your question, Monica? Like at least half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you summarize the step? Yeah, sure. So yeah, too simple. My when I created the Linux system, okay, so I created three partitions. So one is SDA1. It's 25 GB disk. So basically, I created only two. So this one, it went for what to say, the system mount, the boot system, boot file. So one partition went for boot file. It will be like 1 MB and all. So I created two partitions. So the SDA one is mounted for slash, and this one was not mounted anywhere. So it's a free space basically, unallocated. So this one is for 20 GB. So yeah, that is it. So when I created the disk, so I created a partition slash as a 20 GB, and I have a rest of the 5 GB space. And this partition, it's a system partition, so forget about it. So what exactly I did? This dev2, I need to first of all, I need to check the file system and convert it to ext4. Okay. ये होने के बाद yeah, ext2 convert to ext4 file system, as in format the file system. So once it is done, so the next step, what we did a mount slash dev SDA. Yeah, I'm taking SDA2, but it can be anything. Okay. And the last one is update the etc fs tab. So this is what. So whatever I did till now, it's inside the disk. I am not buying any second hard disk or anything else. Okay. So what will I do? Now I'll add a new one. I'm going to storage. So I'm going to click on plus hard disk. So yeah. Yeah, this is the one Ubuntu VM1, 25 GB, 7 GB. Actual size is only 7 GB. We created as 25 GB disk. So what do I do? I gonna create a new one. Okay. So create a new disk. So how much it is? Let's like 5 GB. And click on finish. Choose. So now I got a second disk. So earlier I had only one hard disk. So now what I did, I added a new one. So the first one is of 25 GB space. I can mark SSD because my system is working on SSD laptop. So this also. So the first one is 25 GB. The second one is 5 GB. So let me go ahead and start. So the disk letters comes like this. This is the 25 GB disk. So what gonna do? I gonna get this one /dev/sdb, which is of 5 GB. Okay. And also I have want to do something before coming back here, right? Okay. I want to extend the file size, okay, disk size, okay. So I'll go to here, settings. No, sorry. I'll go into tools. This is the one, Ubuntu vm.vdi. So go to properties. And if you see here in the screen, it's showing 25 GB. So what gonna do is I'll update it to 30 GB. Yeah, this is done. I'll do it on and off. Okay, if you ask me how did I change from 25 GB to 30 GB, so everything is virtual here. So whatever you are seeing, the data, everything is virtual here. So what I did, so whatever is the SDA partition is there, I updated it to 30 GB. So this is not a physical machine. This is a system hosted on virtual box. So similarly in production, the vManager is there, the VMware vManager. So the disk will be hosted there, and there are options you can resize the disk. So from 25 GB to 30 GB and all. So there is a limitation up to where you can resize, but you can try to do a resize. Earlier, Monica asked a question, right? How did you? What is the scenarios we get in production? So this is one scenario. If you are hosting on vSphere, right? So you'll get this one. As I told, the infra team mostly handles these things, but since you are also DevOps team, right? So you should be aware because it will gonna come into AWS as well. So we got two scenarios. So the first scenario is we increase the disk size from 25 to 30 GB. So how will I make sure my SDA partition gets this? Okay, I have the partition as temp, but I want to get the partition. The root partition should get this size. Okay, so lsblk. Okay, did it turn on? Yeah, taking well. Meanwhile, let me see how the AWS one looks like. Okay, this is XVDA. Yeah, so it's also working similar way. Linux file system. And okay, let me shut it down now. Yeah, we'll come back to AWS again. Yeah, so my system is back. So what will I do? Restart. So lsblk. Basically, I'm running it on two commands. Okay. So if you see, my SDA one is 30 GB, and SDA is total 30 GB since I increased the size. Whereas the SDA one for temp partition it's taking 6.4 GB. The root partition for SDA2 it's taking कितना है? 18.6. So 6 plus 18, 24, 25 it is. Total 25 only I'm using. I want to use 30 GB total. Okay. So how do I do that? So for that one, I gonna take this one. So it's a little risky process, but I gonna try this. Okay. So yeah, So I'm gonna print this one, SDA1 and SDA2, right? Here, if you see it carefully, right? Okay. So this is for, yeah, here if you see carefully, I have the temp mounted here. Okay. Now I have the slash mounted here. Okay, forget about this one. So, and this one would be SDA1, and this one would be SDA. Now, the question is, so which disk gets that extended size, right? So total it's 25 GB. So I extended it to 30 GB. So which disk gets the extended size is the second one, always the last one gets the size. Okay. So how will I do that? So I'll delete the partition. And as I told, I'm deleting the logical partition only. So the disk is staying as it is and deleting and recreating. And hey, if you ask me, Shashi, how we are exactly doing, we are not deleting the data anywhere. We are basically deleting the logical entries. Okay. So you see this, yeah, we will remember the start and end bytes actually. So we'll exactly remember where it started and where it ended. Okay. So this. So this is what we want to make a note. Okay. So yeah. So I want to extend this one. There is DA2. So let's go ahead and do it. So for that one, I need to delete the partition and re-add it. Okay. So D and SDA2, right? So that would be partition 2. It's been deleted and do print. So SDA2 has been deleted. So I gonna do I gonna write it W. Okay. And okay, guys, so there is a problem here. This is a system one, so I cannot do it directly from here. In order to delete and re-add, right? Since it's a system partition as the root hosted, so I need to do it from the what to say, the live Ubuntu live operating system. Like I need to go into root mode and then give it right. That's a little tricky. So I'm creating new. Default is new, yes. Partition. Okay. The first sector, right? So if I go here, the first sector starts with this one, 76. Last sector. So here it ended with 5242. Okay. So what I gonna do is, but if you see here, we are seeing 6215. That means our disk got extended. Okay. So let's go ahead and press enter. Yeah. The partition is of Linux file system of 23.8 GB. It contains ext4 signature. Do you want to remove the signature? I will say no. And do a W. I'll see what happened. I am scared that I nuked the system, but okay. So now if you see, right? So total SDA1 is of 6.4 GB, SDA2 came as 23 GB. So if you include total is 30 GB. So I extended the disk space manually, and then I made sure Linux operating system also knows that, boss, my file system has extended. Let's to increase your space. Okay. So if you go to lsblk, so this is what it shows 6 plus 18 and F disk, sorry, DF hyphen. So yeah, that's how it is. So what I'm gonna do, I will do a reboot to make sure it's working properly. Yeah, I guess we are at 11 o'clock, guys. Yeah, any questions here till now? It's little tricky topic. It's need to know basis because you gonna work on the file systems, right? So you should know how the partitions works. It's okay, you no need to practice, but if you get the concept, that is good enough. So yeah, any questions here till now? What I read it?
Yeah, I think in the FDisk output it is showing only 20 GB, 19 GB SDA2 and SDA.
Let me do it. Okay,
I think
this is the one, right?
yeah, here it is showing correct, but when we are having the DF minus 8, it is showing the 99.
Okay, this is the DF command, na?
Yeah, here it is showing 99, 6.9.
Okay. Okay, 1 second. Yes. You're right. It's showing 19 GB only. So I did a reboot. So there is a chance I might have corrupted the system, but that's okay. Like we'll give it a try. Okay, my system came back. So df-h. Hmm. Yeah, you're right, man. So what happened is it didn't take it. I think that FD's operation got failed. So what should I do is technically we need to perform the same operation. We need to go into root mode when we are spinning up, like booting up the disk, right? So we'll get a single user mode. So that is the place we are supposed to do this operation. So the steps are always remains the same. So we will keep it as it is. But that's how it is. And yeah, let you before going back, right? Okay. So let me show you one more thing. Now I have a question here. Like, do you think this SDA is of one disk? Okay, this SDB is of one disk. So do you think I can make a partition or I can increase the space from this disk? Okay, so let me show you. So yeah, my question is, so can I use this 5 GB and increase this space or this space? Is it possible? But because this whole thing is under one drive, and this is altogether different physical drive. So does the Linux file system can handle that? So that is the question. So what do you think is?
No, yes.
Okay. So do you think is there any other solution to handle that? STA, 1 second, STA, STB. Okay, so you're right, man. It won't work like that because it's two different physical partitions. So you cannot do it. So either you can increase it and you can mount your slash temp over here. Okay, or so you have concept called LVM, Linux Volume Manager. So we will discuss about LVM as well because this is the LVMs which you're gonna see in the all the production systems most of the times. So, or I think it's we'll see in only in VMware, I guess. So why do we need LVM is so we cannot add this base to these two partitions. Okay. And let's say you want to increase your slash disk. And what happens is after some time, you cannot keep on increasing this whole disk size, okay, from the VMware. So you need to rely on something else. In that case, so you'll add a new partition. So you will do a merge of these two things. So how will I do merge? So that merge part will come under LVM. But for today, since I'm keeping 1 hour window, so for today I'll take a break here. So yeah, before moving to LVM, is the concept clear? Do you need any? Do you have any questions? So yeah, Haribabu, I think I gave the instructions, but yeah, we converted the file system, mounted and added the etc tab entries, FS tab entries. So
Yeah, this convert to ext4 we can do via using that fdisk command, right? This convert to
No, fdisk will help you the partitions part. Okay. The converting, I think FSCK, I guess. 1 second.
okay.
Yeah, this is the one. MKFS.
Okay.
If you are UI, it's easy. You have the format option. Okay. It is how it looks like. Yeah. Any other question, guys? So before.
So in your putty output, I saw like for LSBLK, it was having, I think, that old 25 GB, but for the DF command, it was 30 GB. Like, why is it different?
Yeah. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So before going there, right? So this is my UI. It's looking like this. So here I can do everything, man. In UI, it's very easy. But as I told in production, it's like less chances you get to see the UI. So it's good to rely on Linux. So yeah, what happened is this is my core partition, the SDA, the root, right? So this is my core partition. So due to that, I'm not able to do because the operating system is mounted there. I'm not able to do any operations here. This particular increasing thing. So the LSBLK got to know that okay, boss, this size got increased, but whereas here, right, we are not able to get that update. So in order to do that, we need to do it at the root level. For that, I need to shut down and go into boot mode. It will take 5 minutes, I think, couple of minutes. But I need to practice it. Like I need to refresh my memory, okay, because it's been a long time. And tomorrow we will discuss that part, and we will discuss about the LVM, and we'll also discuss about the file size handling. Like let's say, how do you figure out how your files disk partition got increased? Let's say you got a disk space alerts, right? So how do you deal with that part? And we will check this one. The short and soft and hard links are there, so we will discuss that one also. Yeah, is that okay, guys? Like 10 a.m. Is it okay for you, or let's go back to 8 a.m.? Like just since it is a weekend, I kept it, but yeah, you tell me, guys.
10 a.m. is fine for me.
Yeah, since it is the only weekend, that's the reason. Is yeah, Rahul, Monica, you have any questions?
Yes, I'm having one small query.
Yeah.
Like how these partitions will help us in production environments, during deployments of the applications or something. How these partitions will help us during that time. Like let's say I would like to take a backup of the some of the VMs or virtual machines for the databases. So will this partition helps in that scenarios?
Okay, so three scenarios, man. It's not more of a day-to-day activity. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's a more of a you need to know the basics. Okay, so as I told, it's like basics. So it's for mostly administration activity. Okay, Linux admin.
Okay.
Okay, so you should be in a place to suggest the solution, right? Okay, so sometimes you are doing the filling of the logs. Okay, so you have some partition like var log is there. Okay,
Oh,
so now what's happening is this var log is part of the root, right? Okay, so let's see. So let's say you attach the root to 10 GB. Okay, and in the 10 GB, your children var log is one children, right?
yes. Yes.
No, or slash var.
Mm-hmm.
No, you have children for log as well here. So now what happened is some of it doesn't care, like it doesn't care how many folders are there, how many things are there and all. Now if
Okay.
you go, yeah, you have etc or other thing. So all your logs and coming and showing here, man. Okay, now what happened is someday you got some 9 GB logs. Okay,
Okay. Okay.
this whole other things are taking already 1 GB. You already filled up with 9 GB logs. So now what happens to your root file system?
Yeah, it will out of storage actually.
Right. So
Yeah.
see, if it is a var or etc, if it's getting out of storage, it's very much fine. Okay. But if it is the slash total slash partition, it is the root partition, it's going out of space, right? The root volume. So that's a problem to your system.
Yes, yes.
One
Okay.
solution, what we can do, we can take some partition, empty partition, or we can take a new disk and assign this one separately. Let's isolate this. Okay.
Okay. Like, do we can even mount the network storages as well? Like,
Network we will come and network we will come. Okay.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, one second.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not coming here, but it's okay. Let me. So as I told, instead of putting under root, instead of putting pressure under root, so what we'll do, we will assign some resource, we'll assign some partition there. So you can mount the partition and you can manage it. Okay. So how does it work is, uh, yeah. So how does it work? So this one I'll make it as orange, and yeah, this one also. Yeah. So how does it work? So this will have its own partition. Okay. Something like dev SDB 2 or
Okay.
something. Okay. And this one will have dev SDB SDA, SDB,
Okay.
SDA. It doesn't matter. Okay. Wherever the disk is and all, because these two are isolated thing. Now,
Okay.
if your
Yeah.
space got increased 9 GB, okay, you will get only pressure under this disk SDB2, but your root will stay as it is, right?
Yeah.
So this is part of your admin activity, correct? So sometimes your disk gets filled up, what to do? Okay. Sometimes you need to add a new disk, right?
Mm.
So that whole thing will come under here. So,
Okay.
and sometimes you have scenario like you need to increase that disk partition, the root partition itself. Okay. So you cannot handle with, as I told you have a limitation, how much you can increase, keep on increasing for a particular disk. After that, you need to take a help of LVMs, Linux virtual machine. So through that, you need to manage the thing. So you got the scenario, right? Where exactly you'll get it.
Yes, 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 yeah, yes.
So you won't get it regularly, but you need to know. So let's say you came tomorrow, this issue came in production. You won't have time to know all the facts, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
this is how the partition works and all. Now you know the
Okay.
basics. If you refer it that time, you will get to know. Okay, boss, ये तो करना है, ये तो करना है. This is how you need to do. This is how you need to do and all. So
Okay.
that's how basics works, Rahul. Okay.
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, thank you, man. It took 10 minutes bit extra, but thank you for joining, everyone. So yeah, it's the same request every time. So you have any people or anyone who is interested to learn, so ask them to join the session. If people are not able to follow up, just put it in the YouTube or something. And yeah, tomorrow I'll take a Q&A session, not related to Linux itself. So you have some any other question related to DevOps anyway, right? So I can take some questions. So this is that any people who are not able to attend in week sessions, right? They can attend in the weekend. So that is the main reason there. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a happy weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Sasi.
Thank you.
Yeah.